Okay, so today's topic's more dictionaries, and we're going to talk about more about dictionaries, more advanced dictionaries. And until now, we've been using strings, integers, or floating point numbers as keys and values. But today, we're going to look at using tuples as keys. And we're going to see how we can use tuples as keys, and then how we can use lists or tuples as values. And then we're going to look at how to use another dictionary as a value in a dictionary. And then for the last part of the core class today, we're going to be doing an example of cookies. And unfortunately, it's not the delicious edible things. It's going to be a computer programming topic called cookies. So that's what we're going to cover today. And first up, let's take a look at dictionaries with tuples as keys. So the key point here is we want to see how we can use more complex data types with dictionaries. Specifically, we want to know how we can use those other complex data types as keys and values in dictionaries. We introduced tuples when we introduced images, and there's some things about tuples that actually make them work well in dictionaries. Specifically, we can use tuples as keys in dictionaries. Now, why would we want to use a tuple as a key? Remember, a tuple is like a list, and it's inside the parentheses. But an example of this might, maybe you want to make a dictionary that has locations of places, like maybe the GPS coordinates, the latitude, and the longitude. So maybe we want some GPS coordinate, and we want to map that to some city. And so this is the data that we want to store in our dictionary. This right here would be the keys, and then the cities would be the values. So we would be able to define that concept. And what would that kind of look like? Well, here's San Diego. And San Diego has this latitude and longitude. So 32.7 something, negative 117. That's where it is on the map. And we could look at other cities. So here's Madison, Wisconsin. So 43 by negative 89. That's actually further north and east of San Diego, much further north and east. And let's look at something in another country. Here's the city of Chennai in India, which is at positive 13 and positive 80. And so they all have unique latitudes and longitudes. There isn't any other city sitting on top of the same coordinates. In fact, a GPS coordinate is accurate to within about 9 feet, 3 meters or so. And depending on how deep you go on latitude and longitude, you'll get pretty accurate. So using these three cities, how can we create a dictionary? So like I said, the latitude and longitude is going to be unique. There's no other place in the world with the same latitude and longitude. So there is a possibility that different places can have the same name. So there could be other cities in different countries with the same San Diego. In fact, I did a search for it. It's like, where are all the places named San Diego in the world? And there's actually quite a few. There's 21 San Diegos in Mexico, Philippines, Colombia, Guatemala. There's a San Diego in Spain, Costa Rica, and that's not counting the one in the United States. There's a bunch of them. So there's a lot of cities named San Diego, but there's only one city that has this latitude and longitude as the key. And so the city name will be the value. The city name will be the value, but the latitude and longitude will be the key into the dictionary. Let me open up an example instead of typing it all in today. Let's see. We're going to be here a while if I have to keep doing this. So I want latitude, longitude. And so what we have here is we have a dictionary, an empty dictionary initially. So location to name is an empty dictionary. And then we've added 3 cities to it. And these are the same GPS coordinates you just saw. So here's the latitude and longitude in a tuple as a key to San Diego. The latitude and longitude as a tuple as a key to Madison. And then the latitude and longitude as a key to Chennai. And we can run this. And you can see it created a dictionary. And the first entry in the dictionary has a key, which is before the colon, which is the GPS coordinates, the latitude, longitude tuple, and the value of San Diego. And again, we have another tuple, and then the value Madison, and then another tuple and the value Chennai. And so this tells us that for keys for dictionaries, they can be other data types besides integers, strings, or floating point numbers. So here we have a key, which is a tuple of 2 floating point values. And if we do location to name, that's going to print the whole thing. And if we do the tuple, and I'm not going to be able to type this accurately, so I'm just going to copy in the tuple. Pass in the tuple, it's going to return San Diego. So this kind of shows that we can actually use a tuple to specify a key. And there could be a situation where you have a couple values. Now, if you think, well, a tuple works, what about a list? Can I define a dictionary and can I define a list in there? So 1 + 2 = 3. And the answer is no. It has this thing called an unhashable type list. And I'm not really going to cover what a hashing means or why a list is not hashable. But the easiest way to think about this is that keys must be immutable. And strings are immutable, and we can use strings as keys. The integer numbers are immutable. You just can't change them. They don't change on you. But think about a list. Lists are mutable. I can change a list, right? So this is a restriction for data types that can be used as keys. We cannot use something that's mutable, like a list. A list will change, whereas a tuple, tuples are immutable. So we can't use lists, but we can use tuples. So tuples, remember, once you set a tuple, once you set the value for a tuple, you cannot change it. So it's immutable. Just like once you set a value for a string, you cannot change it. But if you put a list in there, well, you can change the contents of a list, and that changes what it looks like. And Python doesn't allow us to use a mutable object like a list as a data type for a key, only immutable.